I'm your daddy.
I can be smart when it's important.
I'm your daddy. I'm
sorry to this
I'm your daddy.
Welcome to Daddy Dailies, a podcast hosted by Not Your Daddy's Films. On a film set, dailies are sent out after a shoot day so you can see the work in progress. Daddy Dailies are conversations that go behind the scenes so you can see what work went into the process and be better armed to succeed in the industry. Daddy Dailies, hosted by Not Your Daddy's Films.
Hi, everyone. Let's get into it. I'm Vika, one of the founding daddies. My pronouns are she, her. If this is your first time here, welcome. We're all daddies here. I am an actor, a director, multi-hyphenate. I'm a writer currently in the SWAT writer's room, and we're gearing up for season 8. Wow. SWAT fans in the house, okay. So today we're talking to 6 incredible women who are experts at their craft. Moira, I'm saying that correct,
yep.
Right?
Moira Frazier.
Okay, thank you. I hate mispronouncing people's names because mine is Vika, and you can imagine what happens. Is an Emmy-nominated hair department head with more than 20 years of experience in the beauty industry and more than 10 years of experience working in television and film. She's the founder and CEO of the natural hair product line Finga's Beauty and Finga's Beauty Academy, as well as a personal hairstylist to the stars. Frequently collaborating with A-list talent, including Cheryl Lee Ralph, Nicole Byer, and Quinta Brunson. Moira currently serves as the hair department head on the 3-time Emmy Award-winning series and one of my personal favorites, Abbot Elementary, for which she earned her first Emmy nomination for Outstanding Contemporary Hairstyling in 2023. Some of Maria's other previous credits include serving as a hairstylist on hit shows like Fox's The Masked Singer, Netflix's Nailed It, NBC's Password, and the premiere episode for season 15 of RuPaul's Drag Race. Veronica Bouza is a director of photography whose work spans narrative, commercial, and documentary. She moved up the ranks through crewing as an IATSE 476 electrician and an IATSE 600 camera assistant to receive her MFA from the American Film Institute. Veronica's AFI thesis, We Were Meant To, premiered at Sundance 2023. Veronica's narrative work has been an official selection at Sundance, Tribeca, BAFTA, South by Southwest, and Slam Dance Film Festival. Most recently, Veronica finished principal photography on an independent feature called Grassland. And her debut feature, The Gutter, premiered at South by Southwest 2024, starring Shamik Moore from Spider-Verse and Susan Sarandon. Veronica was named American Cinematographer's 2022 Rising Star of Cinematography. Gabrielle Giarusso is originally from Rhode Island. I'm also an East Coast daddy. She is a costume designer who has designed features and multiple shorts. She's a member of Local 705, the motion picture costumers, and has worked in the costume department on Curb Your Enthusiasm, Rutherford Falls, Our Flag Means Death, and films like The Fabelmans and You Get Me. She is also the owner of The Dive Vintage, so I would suggest go following that on Instagram right now. A vintage clothing source dedicated to sustainable and affordable fashion. Logan Davis. Logan is an intimacy coordinator based here in Los Angeles. She has widespread training background in all things intimacy coordination and was officially certified through the Intimacy Directors and Coordinators, or IDC, a SAG-accredited certification program. She's worked on many different projects, from shorts, features, and pilots, and her work as an actor, producer, and screenwriter also helps give her a well-rounded view of set life and the actor's experience. Logan is a graduate of the University of Michigan, where she studied sociology, acting, creative writing, and intergroup relations, which taught her how to hold open and effective dialogue across different identity groups. She brings this work her own insight and experiences as a member of the LGBTQIA+ community. She is also an advocate and consultant for BDSM and kink. The core of all of Logan's work is consent-based and collaborative. She strives to equip actors and directors with the tools they need to create intimate scenes with healthy boundaries and mutual understanding. Kelsey Myers. Right there on the end. Kelsey has established her career in television and film, working as an editor and assistant editor. Her recent projects include assisting on Netflix's Never Have I Ever and HBO Max's The Sex Lives of College Girls. This past year, she collaborated with director Rebecca Walls to edit her first feature film, Him. In her spare time, she enjoys cutting short films and biking around the streets of LA. She is driven by her love for storytelling and the belief that a single cut can transform an audience's emotional experience. And, oh gosh, I'm so sorry, I'm giving you my back. I'll say it right to you guys. Last but certainly not least, Tangelene Bolton is a Filipina-American award-winning film, TV, and media composer, a Berklee College of Music film scoring graduate, and a 2020 Sundance Composer Fellow. Tangelene possesses a distinct music style that is a mashup of neoclassical, electronic, folk, and jazz. She got her start working for A-list composers like Hans Zimmer, who did The Lion King and The Dark Knight and a million other films, Henry Jackman and Bobby Tahuri. Tangelene is known for her scores from Netflix's original series Warrior Nun, Season 2, and Season 3 of Comedy Central's Awkwafina is Nora from Queens, and Blumhouse's thriller film Unseen, directed by Yoko Okamura. Other credits include additional music for Sundance's 2024 opening film Freaky Tales, composing music for Disney Plus's Let's Be Tigers and Walt Disney Animation Studios' Just a Thought. Also Apple TV's C, CBS's All Rise, and Nickelodeon's hit animation Shimmer and Shine. She's performed and conducted her scores at the Wiltern with the Hollywood Chamber Orchestra for The Future is Female, a concert for women in film. We're so thrilled to have all of you here. I think that all of your work is so integral to bringing our stories to life, and this audience is made up of people in all of your fields, as well as directors and writers and actors. So I think we all have a lot we can learn from each other, and I would love to start as it comes to talking about character. So, Moira, if we can start off with you. When you were talking to Quinta Brunson specifically about her character of Janine in Abbot Elementary, what kind of discussions do you have about like the character arc between the seasons? Because I've noticed as a fan that Janine has just changed so much internally, but also externally, and how she wears her hair, the clothes she wears. So can you just tell us a little bit about that evolution?
Well, first of all, let's talk about the little pumpkin bunks over here. No, because I got 2 kids, child. I got 2 kids, so I already know, and I love the fact that you're able to bring your baby here, because, baby, let me tell you, I love this vibe already. Love it. I would have bought my kids. Okay. We working, honey. We working. But I love the fact that for Janine's character this season, we wanted to convey that she, first of all y'all know, what's the first thing we do when we break up with somebody or we get rejected by somebody? What's the first thing we do? Okay. So she's not going to cut her hair off because that's not Janine. That's a little too, extreme for her. But for this instance, we started by just doing the simple things, which was changing the defining her curl pattern. That was real big for her. And one thing that we discussed before going into season 3 is we wanted to do a bust down middle part. And our culture, in our hood, Black culture, ain't nothing defining about us. It's about a bust down middle. So for us, we did a straight middle part, which not just, for the average person, it's okay, just what's a middle part. But for us, it means confidence, dominance. Like she wanted to tap into that, her sensual, her little sexy feminine vibe. And for a bust down middle for her was just that. So we defined those curl patterns, and even shaping her character, me and Quinta talked about, we seeing Janine Googling, like, how to define a curl pattern. What do we do? She may not have the money, but baby, we know how to make it work. We know how to go in that closet and mix a little olive oil with some conditioner and ta-da. You got your own little, how to, whatever. So that's just kind of how we went about with it so that it can be able to convey to the audience something realistic. Like, even though she don't got money, she got money. You know what I mean? So it's ways that we know how to put ourselves together as women, period, because we all know how to hack the system, especially in the beauty world. And for Janine, that's exactly how we approach this season. So
I love that. I love that for those of you who've watched the show, she's really taken, like the character's taken these leaps and bounds professionally and personally, like taking so many more risks. And I think the confidence that you see in her is like external to internal. So that's really cool to hear that you guys talked about the Googling and all of that. That's incredible. Veronica, as a DP, how does the character's personal journey and story arc influence like your framing and color choices? We've talked off this panel about Veronica's feature, The Gutter, and how like two of the central characters are so different. So maybe that's like a framework to start in.
Sure, yeah. I mean, when I start a project, a big part of breaking down the visual design is we break down the character arc. What is the character going through? And creating a visual design for the start of the film, and then as they progress, or sometimes digress, it changes. So with The Gutter, The Gutter is a bowling comedy with Susan Sarandon. And it's Talladega Nights meets Dodgeball. Like it's all over the place. And for our main character, Shameik Moore's character, we wanted him to be more grounded, like more subjective, you're more with him. But when you meet Susan Sarandon's character, she's so flashy. She's the best. It's also Susan Sarandon. So like she gets the star filter, she gets the zooms. And I think by grounding it based on their characters, you're able to bring kind of a specificity to them that feels really original and you can kind of connect with.
Fantastic. Logan, just like in real life, all of our characters have sex differently. And all actors have different comfort levels with what they're willing to showcase on camera. So how do you help an actor balance the story that's being told in the script and on screen with like their own personal comfort level? What are those conversations typically like?
Yeah, so the first call that I have when I'm booked on a job is with the director. And the director tells me what their vision is for the scene, how they want, and I try to get as much detail as I can. So duration of action and camera angles and everything. Then the second call I have is with the actors, privately, one-on-one on Zoom. But I kind of relay the director's vision to them and see where on their body they're feeling comfortable. Do you not want to show certain parts of your body? Do you not want to show certain sides of your face? Do you not want to show your right nipple, your left nipple? And once I have the general scope of what they're comfortable with, then we can play in the zone that we've created. So we have an entire zone where we can create the scene, but these are the parts that we can't show. These are the actions that they're not comfortable with. And then I would go back to the director and say, you can either do the vision that you want because the actor is comfortable with everything, or we have to change the choreography because this is the actor's boundaries. So it's all about the actor and their boundaries that they set at the top of the call.
If it's a two-person or multiple-person scene, are you on set having sort of like helping guide that with the director, or are you like letting the director take it from there and then chiming in when needed?
Depends on the director. Some directors don't really want me to step in unless it's super necessary. Like if I see an actor's boundary being crossed, that I already know that they have a boundary, and I kind of like I'm just on watch for them. But some directors are like, I don't know what I'm doing. Please step in, choreograph it all, please. So if in that case, we would have a rehearsal, like an intimacy rehearsal on set, and I would be really hands-on of like, okay, this is where we're not going to touch, and these are the actions that we're going to do, and let's see exactly where on our bodies that we're going to touch, even if it's like an arm grab like this. We're going to start here and we're going to end here so that the actors don't feel like they just touch into oblivion and just like wait for a cut, like it's everything's super technical. But how hands-on I am is kind of dependent on the director.
That's incredible. And also you have to have the comfort level to have those conversations, which is, I'm sure, invaluable to some of us who can be awkward around the subject of sex. Gabrielle, where do you start when you're looking at a character's wardrobe? Is it what colors suit the actor best, or is it like the character's economic standing and like what they might be able to afford themselves, or kind of combination of all the above?
It's kind of a combination. It's usually I have a conversation with the director first to kind of figure out, like what the character's lifestyle is like, and like what they can afford, how they treat their clothes, kind of by their character, who they are, how they live their life. And then, casting kind of depends as well in terms of color palette. If something fits the character but doesn't look good on the actor, it's, you kind of have to adjust. The actors have a lot of input. I think it helps them kind of find the character and find themselves. And I try and take that into consideration as well.
So you like having an actor's input personally?
Sometimes they can be a little too...
I know it can be a touchy thing because I was taught when I was auditioning for things, like, this is their area of expertise. Like, don't chime in there because you don't know what looks best on camera. So I'm curious, like, how someone could navigate that conversation and be respectful. And that probably applies to hair and wardrobe as well.
Yeah, I think I try and give space for it because I want them to be comfortable and, like, feel good on camera, but you are the one with kind of the background and the expertise on it. So it's a tricky conversation, and sometimes actors have too much of an opinion and it can be tricky, but I try and find a nice, like, compromise, and everyone has, the directors have an opinion, producers have opinions, It's kind of a balancing act.
Amazing. Tangelene, can you tell us, as a composer, what stage you typically come into the process, and what conversations are you having when you're scoring? Is it like to establish the overall tone? Are you talking about specific instruments, or like maybe they're giving you comps for like a character theme? What is that early stage like?
It really varies depending on the project, but I love reading scripts. So I'm always, encouraging my collaborators to start talking about music early, because there's so much in the scripts that you can already start to dissect with the characters. And it's something that I really love exploring. And I can start already, crafting some of my template, my sonic palette in the early stages. That way, once we start, filming and then going through different cuts, I personally love to start giving little ideas that they can start testing out, so that the music can kind of feel a little bit more a part of the DNA as opposed to, the last step in the process. But, there are still those projects where time's an issue and the composer comes in later. And at that point, I think it's just the most important thing is to find out what is the truth of the characters. How can I play music the most authentic to them, and use different, themes, motifs, different sonic language and instruments to accentuate those moments.
When you read a script and there's a needle drop in it, but maybe that doesn't end up actually being a needle drop, does that help influence what you might do, or do you take your own creative freedom to create something there?
Well, a lot of times when there's like a needle drop, that's like usually like licensed music. So that's typically something the music supervisor will take care of. And once we finally get to the spotting phase, where the composer, the music supervisor, the sound designer, everyone will, and then the other creatives like the showrunner or the director will all come together and basically watch every single scene and really dissect the mood and the tone of the music and what we're going for. That's when we'll typically discuss if something's a needle drop or like a licensed piece of music, if that's something that the director or the showrunner wants to keep, if there's an issue of budget constraints, maybe that's something where I'll take another look at it and provide some score for that area. So it's really a very situational.
Yeah, that's a perfect transition. Kelsey, something I think about when I'm directing are character entrances, and like the first time you see a hero on screen. Taking Sex Lives of College Girls, for example, where each of those characters are almost like a distinct archetype of a young woman, how does that affect your process in the edit?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. I definitely feel like, a lot of the editor's job is intuition, and like you're watching the dailies, and I came on to College Girls like during the pilot phase, so we're voting something from just the script and whatever they got, so kind of like the editors are working together at like making these characters who they are and what the showrunners and the writers had envisioned. And sometimes it's different than what was like envision, and you like kind of adjust, and it's all like based on intuition and kind of what the actor is giving you. And like over the course of many seasons and stuff, you start to get to know these actors and how they work, and there's something really cool about that, because you're able to go in and kind of know when they're about to do their best, or when they like if someone's better like in their first take, like you kind of stick with those, so you start earlier on, and then sometimes it takes them a little bit, and it, like the longer that you're on something, that's kind of the cool part about working in TV, and when you get to work on many seasons, is you're able to really start to get to know the actors and the characters, and know when they're like delivering their best and everything. But yeah.
There's the superheroes making everyone look amazing. So this is a group question. Anyone can take this. What do you wish directors or showrunners, producers understood about your jobs? How could they make the experience overall just better and more collaborative? Like, be that coming into the process earlier, like you mentioned, coming in as early as possible, or sharing certain information with you?
I mean, I think being a cinematographer, you are kind of a magician. Like, you are given nothing and you make a film. So a lot of times it would be nice to know, what favors do we have? Like, what is the real number? There's always this like potential budget, but that's not real. So what I've found, like, through this industry, meeting people and building relationships with people is kind of the key. So regardless of your budget, building relationship, investing in people, you're able to pull more favors. So I really ask for my collaborators, especially when it's like a lower budget, what are your intentions, and then what is our dollar amount, and we can find that happy medium.
Well, for us, hair and makeup, it's a little bit different world. Same but different. A lot of times people think, I mean, I'm blessed to work on a show that is very, very high paced, and as a hairstylist, I'm able to prep. A lot of people don't get the opportunity to actually prep their work, and I'm blessed to be able to prep. But I wish a lot of people took in count that, like for us as a hairstylist, I already know firsthand, okay, what does a character look like? What is a desired character that we're actually going to do? And how their hair is, because not everybody who may be extremely, a lot of us may have kinky curly hair. We just can't throw blonde on them because you want this character to be blonde. That might destroy the integrity of their natural hair. So in other words, we're going to have to put them in a wig, which means we need a budget for that. And a lot of times there is no budget for that, so therefore we have to hack into the budget for that and try to figure that out. Because a lot of times the actor has the power to, put that into their budget or put that into their asking price. And a lot of times these actors and actresses don't know that they have the power to ask for that, because at the end of the day, the integrity of their hair is important. And we as hairstylists have to maintain the integrity of their hair while still doing the character. So if you're designing a character that is completely shaved, have those conversations with that character, so that if they don't necessarily want to shave their hair, let's find an alternative that comes close to that character that you are creating and or writing about. But yeah, just having that open conversation and giving us the time.
Time is so key.
Baby, yes, when we get on set, like for us, like, on our show, it takes makeup maybe an hour, but it takes me 20 minutes to put a wig on for all of my actors. Even Shirley Ralph's actor, Barbara, I put her wig on in 5 minutes, just because I have mastered getting it done quick, fast, and possible. I try not to have anybody in our chair and or trailer no more than 30, but I do realize that's not everybody's story. And if we don't have that time to properly prepare them and get them ready, it's going to be a mess, because guess what? We're the first person that they see in the beginning of the day. And because we're the first person that they see, we set the tone for the rest of the day. So if y'all trying to rush us, 9 times out of 10, they may be running late. You never know. Things happen in the morning. So when we're there at 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, and some of y'all don't get in till about 9:30, 10, and you see them on set, we're ready to go. Action, action. We like, dang, can we have 2 minutes? Yes, we might have been with them for 2 hours, but y'all don't know the preparation that we prepped them so they can get to set to do their job and do their character. So yeah, just give us some time.
I love it. I was gonna say the same thing. Prep is like the most important part, and like we even have fittings with them before they get to set, and they kind of informs them in their character and what their vibe is, what the deal is. And so it's like we need time to shop and figure out that character, and notes from the director, and influence, like we talked about before, it's like everyone has opinions, so those things needs to get worked out. And if we don't get casting until 7:00 the night before, like, I'm sorry, it's not gonna happen. So that's often the case. Yeah. And you kind of have to work under those restraints, but time yields a better product.
I want you to answer, but I do have a follow-up. Do you find yourself, especially in television, when there's a different director every week, do you find yourself seeking that person out to like initiate that communication, or are they good about coming to you? I'm sure it depends.
Yeah, I think it's dependent on the person, but yeah, there's a lot of chasing people down.
Yeah, I was gonna say like to the previous, but I'll touch on that too. Like visually, I think a conversation happening with editors is important, because so many times, like, there's a certain camera angle we need, or a certain reaction. Like especially in comedy, like reactions is everything, and sometimes reactions get forgot in the scheme of the entire day. You're just trying to get the lines, but like the reactions are going to tell the story. So there's certain camera angles and moments and things that sometimes like are good conversation points. And when it comes to like collaborating with directors, it can be very different in TV versus film, just because the pacing, like TV is so fast. And like in television, a lot of times we have like tone meetings, depending on the shows. Not all of them do, but I know that tone meetings happen where they bring in like the showrunner and the director and the editor, and they all kind of talk about the characters, because the directors are coming into something that has already been created, and so they're able to get those conversations started about the characters and what they need, and ask the editor questions, the showrunner questions about kind of what they're walking into, since television is so fast-paced. And like in filmmaking, there's a lot more time to be able to like sit down and have those conversations and work one-on-one with the director, whereas they're coming in for a couple of days in post-production. Like directors get like 2 or 3 days in post-production, and then they're out the door, and the showrunners come in and like finish sculpting the show. So they're coming in to make the mark and everything. So yeah.
I will say this season season 3 is the first time that I've actually had multiple conversations and visits with the editors and been in the editor's room. And I do that because I want to make sure that my work, because I ventilate wigs and make them from scratch. So what I like to do is I like to make sure that you're not picking this up on the cameras. On our show, we have 8K cameras. And if you're not in constant communication with all departments, not just the hair department and the directors and all of that, you also have to make sure that the lighting is consistent on set, same in your trailer. So when you do get to set, the director isn't waiting on you and saying, dang, y'all still fixing wigs and hair? You ain't have to do that, because you got it right the first time. And then I double checked and go back in the editor's room and in post and say, okay, can y'all put this frame up? I just want to make sure we good. And then it's good. So yeah, talk to all departments.
Yeah, wait, I want you to answer, but just following up on that, I guess for the three of you, when you're creating wigs and hairstyles, and say it's either a period piece, or if the medium is different, if it's 8K or if it's film, does that change what you're using, and for you as well with costumes? Like, how is that relationship between these different departments?
I mean, I think anytime you're doing something different, the rule of thumb is to test. If you have the time, test it beforehand, not when you're actually shooting, because then you've run out of time and everyone's mad at each other. So what I love is, like, when I start a project, I get to know every department head, and they become my best friends and they become my allies. And like, when it comes to the editor, I have them on speed dial. If they're like, hey, we're missing a shot, I'm like, damn it, okay. Or, when it comes to hair and makeup, we secretly will talk to each other, be like, let's fix this in between. So I think it's having that open communication with the departments, so we're set up for success.
Absolutely. And when it comes to the quality of cameras, that's the most important thing. Because on our show, like last season, season 2, we were filming in 4K cameras. But this year's season 3, it's all 8K. which means you can pick up everything. So I was already using like the thinnest lace because I get my lace from London. So I was already using that lace, but I had to do and go an extra step to make the lace now look matte, because you couldn't really pick up like shininess on season 2, but you can kind of pick it up on season 3, until I had to go in and get a hack and make it matte, and now you can't see nothing. But still, you know, those are the things that you have to worry about in every department that you work in. And also that constant communication, because I asked so many questions in our concept meeting. I'm talking to everybody. Everybody always laughing at me because when I start talking, it's like, girl, what you eating on? I'm eating and talking and asking all kind of questions. But still, I make it fun because that's what it's about. Like,
Logan, and I want to give you the opportunity.
Yeah,
to share
I
your
say
answer.
there's 2 things that would make my job easier. One is, even before I'm brought on, is putting as much detail about intimacy in the casting breakdown as you can. So if you know that there's going to be a kissing scene, if you know that there's an actor coming out of the shower scene, even if you don't know what the scene's going to look like and what's it going to entail, if it's full nudity or partial nudity, the more detail that you can provide up front, the better, so that no one's surprised. And secondly, I think since I see intimacy coordinator as such a new role, directors just understanding what the role is. We have a reputation of like being the sex police, where we're going to come in and just tell you what you can't do and just like be there with our clipboard and be like, no, 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 which I will do if something happens that I need to say no. But it's really not about that. It's more about making sure that the scene looks real when it's not real and it's in the actor's boundaries. So kind of understanding what our role is and how we can be helpful to you without just like being the bearer of bad news.
Do you guys want to add anything, or?
I mean, I'd love to talk about, some of the departments I love to be in contact with.
Please, yes.
My music editor is usually so important because a lot of times I'm delivering music to the dub stage, and then sometimes there's still music that needs to be moved, especially on VFX heavy shows like Warrior Nun on Netflix. There's a lot of superhero, supernatural elements. So, sometimes it'll be like a crazy fight scene, and they'll have to adjust, the music very, very faintly so that it'll hit certain moments a little better. Or I love to be in contact with sound designers as well, because there was actually a specific instance with our lead character Ava's Halo. It has a very specific sound, and I want to make sure whatever music I'm writing is hitting the same key of the Halo. Or or if it's an instance where maybe I wrote the music first, I want to make sure that they have that music so that they can make that sound effects match the same tone.
So when you were learning how to compose specifically for television, were you able to sit in on an edit, or like what did you find to be the most useful tool as you were learning?
No, actually, I just Warrior Nun was my first TV show as like a lead composer, so I just knew that I wanted to be prepared. So I'm just like an avid. I'm just super interested in film as a whole, so I'm just like genuinely interested in all the different processes, and I tend to kind of have a feel for like which departments could make use of being in contact with each other.
That's great. I love how proactive all of this is, because I think early on in your career when you're coming up, it can sometimes feel like, oh, I should be quiet and not communicate because I should just learn by observing, which can be true, but it is really important to advocate for what's going to make your life and job better and smoother and easier. You kind of answered this, but I was for the post overall experience, I was curious what the relationship is like between you and your department, and I guess from your end, Kelsey, what are you wanting to get from a composer when you're in those, like before the mix, before you're showing it to the showrunner or the director? And
it's definitely like again, project by project basis, like kind of depends on who you're working with and the situation. And again, TV being very fast paced, we're often pulling things for temp from like everything and everywhere, which sometimes can hurt or help the project depending on the situation. That's why getting in like contact with composers and like stuff. We have have had the same composers on our projects over many seasons and in the same world. So like they all know the editors and everything, and have
when
that
you say
communication.
temp, it's like usually from other films.
Yeah, we pull temp music from other movies, TV shows that have the similar vibe for what we're going for. Even like College Girls is very heavy with needle drop music. So our music supervisor, which is a position that we have, that our music supervisor will give us a library of music with like different things to pull throughout the season, things that are within budget. So then, you're able to, in the end, because it always comes down to budget, and sometimes there's just too many big songs we put in, and like you have to pull back, and then that's when the composer sometimes comes in and like, makes the transition work with something else, with the same kind of sound, but comes up with their own like feel and stuff. So yeah, it definitely is a big communication between all like music departments, between the composers, the music editor, the music supervisor, and a lot of those skits started early on in the process. Yeah.
Incredible. Tangelene, this is more for funsies. So working on SWAT, we have these credits, right? And, not every show has a credit sequence, but I think of the like Game of Thrones or Shogun right now as this epic sequence. What point in the process are you coming up with something like that, or a composer? And are you trying to capture like the arc of the season, or is it, I feel like there's always Easter eggs in there.
Yeah, that's a great one. Let me see. Well, for Warrior Nun, since I came on for season 2, it was a very different world. So it was definitely all about establishing like a newer sound for the world. And I think I had written a bunch of options. It was like a really quick title sequence, very quick. But I think I wrote a few different options before even locked picture, because you don't want to be rushing something like that.
No, it sets the tone. Yeah.
So yeah, I wrote a few options early, and then just got the okay as to which one worked best.
Very cool. Okay, another group question for anyone who wants to take it in the group. There are people in this audience at every stage of their career, very established, new, kind of figuring out what area they want to be in. Do you have a story about how you got that first job or early career door to open? Something that you didn't know then that you wish you had?
I'ma just say this. Patience. I know y'all hear this all the time, and I'm just gonna keep it real with y'all. Y'all gonna have ups and y'all gonna have downs. But y'all have to understand that in every stage of your career, one job leads to the next job, leads to the next job, and leads to the next job. You absolutely, positively cannot give up in your journey. I'm telling y'all. Like, I know that it's cliche, and like you hear people say it all the time, but guess what? They was telling me that all the time too. Like, oh, you get it. Oh, you get that job, da-da-da-da-da. But I really couldn't give up, and I really had to work on me and my craft until that opportunity came. So I stayed ready so I wouldn't have to get ready. And that's just something you really gotta understand. Like, my husband is also a music producer, and it was he would be producing music for nights on end, and he got catalog. And you know what he do? He always say, I stay ready so I don't got to get ready. So anytime he get called to the studio, all he got to do is press play. That's it. And I got that mentality from him. So I stayed ready so I wouldn't have to. So I built wigs. I honed in on my craft. So anytime somebody called me for something, I already got it. You know what I'm saying? So that's just a real, but you know.
No, I mean, I couldn't agree more. As someone who's done every position that I'm a leader for, that's what makes you a leader. Like, I think you need to be humble and enjoy the process. And I think a lot of times it's just showing up to set with a smile on your face and being really kind. And people remember that. And I think if you can really be open and respectful you can start expressing where you want to go in this industry, because it's a small industry in a way. People know each other, and you never know who's going to get you that next job. Like, it could be that screenwriter, or it could be, that set dresser that you barely talk to. So just really pay attention when you're in these environments.
Yeah, I was going to say something similar. It's like you never know where it's going to come from, and I feel like people just recognize if you're genuine and if you're passionate, and like see that, and like all you kind of have to really do is show up and do a good job and be nice, and like then you get that next job and you get the next one, and it just, people see that you're passionate and caring about what you want to do, so that goes a long way.
Yeah, definitely everything that you said, like through and through, I've found to be so true. Just coming in and like having that like excitement towards the job, and like the people around you will see that. One thing I found for myself is I ended up in a room with people who are very supportive and have given me opportunities and seen things early on that has given me opportunities to kind of learn and grow, and also just being open to like any opportunity that comes around. Because I know that when I came in here, like to LA and everything, I kind of came in thinking I really wanted to work on like independent features. I never really thought I would land in comedy TV, and I found to really love it. And I've grown to really enjoy what I'm working on. So you just kind of never know what you might end up gravitating towards in the end, and what else you can learn from those experiences. So,
yeah, similarly to what everyone's saying, when I decided I wanted to be an IC, I wanted to get professionally certified, and there's only like 2 kind of schools that do the certification process, and since it's so inundated with people that want to do it, the acceptance rate's like 6% or something crazy. So when I applied the first time, I didn't get in. I applied again, didn't get in, and then the third time I applied, I did get in. So I'd say just keep trying, persistence. If you know that you're going to be really good at it and you want the certification and the accreditation and just to learn everything about your craft, just keep trying and just wait for your moment.
I'd love to echo on that. Actually, that's amazing, because, yeah, applying for something is great. Not getting in also fuels like your artistic process even more. So it's still beneficial, even if you don't get whatever you're applying for.
Yeah, I mean, it goes back to like I didn't get into my first choice school, and I wouldn't have been in Los Angeles. So, also was a stand-up comedian, and now I work on a cop show. So, you never know. So we have time for a couple more questions, and then I'd love to open up to the audience. But we got this one through one of our daddy community. Specific for you, Gabrielle, how do you handle a situation where an actor really dislikes their costume and insists on a change, and the designer isn't on hand to approve it or explain? As a costumer, like, what can you do?
I've had this happen many times. Or like, the actor shows up and the director doesn't like it, or, just something's not right. It's kind of, as the trailer costumer, you kind of, first thing is you call the designer and say, hey, like, this is happening. What do you want us to do? And usually it's kind of rushing some options up to set to kind of figure it out and have a collaborative conversation. And from an actor's perspective, it's helpful if you say that before you get to set, just so that you're not holding up camera. Have that conversation with the trailer costumer and say, hey, I'm really not feeling good in this. Like, can we do something? And that way you can kind of get ahead of it. But yeah, it's just a collaboration. So you just kind of figure out what options you have available, what the issue is, trying to make them comfortable. If it's like something that's really specific to the character, then it sometimes you kind of have to put your foot down, or sometimes it's a lot of insecurity. So you have to kind of,
what's that?
I think sometimes like actors need a little pep talk and a little confidence boost of like, you look great, it's the character, it makes it like a little coaching kind of, that helps them kind of get in the right mindset about it.
It reminds me of something that Veronica said to me the other day, which is that often you end up being a therapist for your coworkers. So yes, being kind is very important. So all of you, but I'm also very curious in the music world, you studied, like you learned under such like accomplished folks. Is there something that one of those mentors taught you that you now carry with you in your process?
I think it's just overall like developing a thicker skin and getting the chance to fail under different mentors is pretty invaluable, because once you start getting your first couple film and TV projects with studios or just any big opportunity, it's helpful if you'd failed a few times under the comfort of someone else. Yeah, that'd probably be the biggest one.
Yeah, that's great advice. Tell me if you agree. I think this industry attracts perfectionists, and it's hard to fail when you're a perfectionist and not be like, I'm bad, So really good to take that to heart. So there are various roles in all of your departments: assistant editor with the editor, costumer versus costume designer, camera operators, DPs. What did your days coming up for the rest of you teach you in your current role?
One thing I feel like I always have learned, and I feel like I've been pretty good about, is in editing, you can't really be precious about anything that you do, because it's gonna change. Like, my first cut is always gonna be bad. It's always gonna be bad. You're just laying it down. One of my best pieces of advice that someone's given me is not even to think about what the scene is gonna be. Just get something on the timeline. Just cut the lines in, see what it looks like. And then you can go back through and you start to notice the little details that you want to add in that will tell the story of the scene. So, and then especially in movies, you're working with the director a lot more hands-on for longer, and it's just you guys making this thing together. And then the studios and all the execs start to give input. But when it comes to television, the biggest thing is you do your cut, and then the moment that you've done your cut, it's out of your hands. It's everyone else, and everyone's going to be giving feedback. Everyone's going to have something to say. So whatever you're doing is just don't be too precious about it, because in the end, it's just going to keep changing throughout the process, and you're going to have the time to fix some things that yourself have noticed that you don't like yourself, but because you have more time to work with it throughout the process.
Incredible. So as I'll end with this one, even though I have so many more things that I want to give you guys a chance to ask too. As folks who identify as women in a very male-dominated industry, there's all these different biases because we work so closely together with people from all walks of life. Is there any specific advice you have for navigating that? Big question.
I say I'm lucky because intimacy coordinating is a very female-dominated space. There are male-identifying ICs, but there's something about, I think, just women's ability to communicate that people are drawn to us as ICs. But again, being on set is a male-dominated space, so I'd say it's just kind of just knowing that you're really good and that you're trained and that you know what you're talking about. So if you kind of walk around with that air of confidence, then people have to respect you regardless of age or gender identity. Just knowing that you're good. And just have that chip on your shoulder.
I have to agree. When you go to set as a woman or identifying, you got to stand on business when you go to set. You know what I'm saying? And when I say stand on business, I mean, it really is literally the same thing you just said. You really have to walk with an air of confidence. And that air of confidence is knowing that you're good, not arrogance. An air of confidence. Because I know for me, it works for me because I'm just, that's who I am, but I do still remain humble. But at the same time, I know what I do and what kind of work that I put out, but I still remain in a humble space. And I know a piece of advice that I can give is that I'm trying to be better than what I was yesterday. And my only competition is myself. I'm not trying to compete, because that's another thing. A lot of y'all look on social media, I know I do, and be like, dang, they got that job and they doing this and they doing that and they in Jamaica, da-da-da-da. But you have to, they filming in Jamaica. I want to be on the beach. But, you have to be comfortable with where you are. And really, when you are in competition with yourself, be better than where you are. Be better than what you were yesterday for tomorrow, if that makes sense. Does that kind of make sense?
Yes. I'm curious, confidence versus arrogance. How do you think you can come into a space and be seen as confident and competent but not arrogant?
Well, the way I do it, I'm not closed-minded when people ask me questions, because sometimes when you're arrogant, you're like, figure it out. the fuck? Why you talking to me? You know what I'm saying? But I'm not like that. Like if I see like a hairstylist that is like really struggling, like I hire a lot of different hairstylists from all different walks of life that come to our union and through our show. And a lot of times I'll be having to pull them aside and be like, girl, let's figure this out, sis, or let's get it together, guy. You know, whatever they identify as, I still be like trying to like help them along the way, because those are things in our industry. It's a very catty industry, and they'll see you fail and be like, yeah, we're not hiring her, but hi, how are you? Have a nice day, and won't hire you again and tell everybody not to work with you. But that's not me, because I was once that person who didn't know. So that's the difference between being arrogant and confident, because I'm confident you're not gonna try to take my job, and if you try, you're gonna fail.
I was just gonna say, like, knowing when to like stick up for yourself, and like in those conversations, just knowing like when you can say like, no, this is what I know, and this is my expertise, and you know, this is what I bring to the table. And I think it's hard as women sometimes, but also I feel lucky that costumes is typically a female department. But it can also be very catty as well. So just kind of knowing when you have that space to stand up for yourself.
I mean, piggybacking off that, and I was kind of talking about it in the bar over there, I think it's really good to understand the personalities that you're working with and the personalities you need to thrive. And I think it could be male, female, non-binary, but you have to be able to work with everyone, but there's always going to be personalities that you mesh better with. So I highly recommend really understanding yourself, because that will really push you along as a leader of like, you know what, I really just need calm people. That's just who I need. Or no, I need people who are kind of crazy and like I can jump off them. But I think by able to identify what you need, it just makes the workflow of working for 12 plus hours a day a lot easier.
Yeah, and I think like a big thing to add is just like reading like pretty much everything everyone said, but like reading the room, especially in like editorial, like everyone had said is kind of like bouncing around, but we're with the same people every day for 10 to 12 hours a day. So you really get to know those people that you're in the room with, and like being able to like clock certain things is like really what helps you like in the everyday process. And editorial is kind of becoming more female dominant than it's growing. It's definitely starting to split, and I've been lucky to be in a space with like a good mix, and with like you said, calm. Like I noticed for myself, like I needed like the calm environment, and sometimes you enter a post-production office that everything is hectic, and it just makes everything more stressful. So I found that finding the people that kind of complement you well will really like help you thrive in an environment.
Yeah, everyone said such amazing stuff. And I would also say, I mean, my industry is, the percentage is pretty messed up, but so I do feel like I can't fail as much personally, or someone's, I don't know, I just feel like you need to be as detail oriented as possible, because that's normally where the errors happen. So I would just advise to just be as detail oriented as possible before you send anything anyone's way, or before you're showing anyone something. I think that's what really makes you stand out as a professional.
Yeah, and often in this business, you only really get one shot with a new relationship, so you want to put which it shouldn't necessarily be that way, but it is a reality, and so you want to put your best foot forward. Thank you all so much. I'd love to open it up. If you want to say your question, and I'll repeat it. Yeah, Mia. Of course. So the question was, if you're an actress or actor who doesn't want to be naked on screen, and Logan is working with a body double, could that hinder an actor from getting hired?
There has to be a budget for a body double. So if it's a really low budget and you want a body double, there is a chance that you would not be able to do the job because they just can't budget in your boundaries. Which is why it would be good to give all the information right out the gate. Ultra low budget, you will be fully nude, so you would know that ahead of time. But if there is a budget, then yeah, that body double is really easy. That's something that I would be able to relay to the director, like, this is a non-negotiable. I talk to the actor. This is what they're comfortable with. Like, how can we do it? Rather than like, can we please? It's like, no, this is what we're doing. We're gonna do a body double. Let's work on choreography to make that work. So in the right space, absolutely, and that's 100% something you can ask for.
The question is, in camera, it is often very male-dominated. What's the best way for a woman or non-binary identifying person to get their start there?
It's funny because my whole career has just been with men, so it's like I haven't seen the other side, you know. So I like this thought. I don't know. I think what I did is I just tried to absorb as much as possible from my collaborators, regardless of their backgrounds. A lot of times, like, we didn't connect, and that's okay. But it was more grasping the technical aspect and taking that and then fueling my creative side. So it's like when you're going into a job, figuring out what you're taking from the job, you know. It's funny, we were talking about this a while ago, and it's like this triangle. It's money, creative, or like it's a great thing for the reel, or it's a collaboration. Yes, and it'll kind of always be that 3. Hopefully it's 3. Usually it's just 2 of them. Usually there's no money, but it's a great collaboration, and it's a great creative thing. So you have to kind of assess every project that you're doing, because how this industry works is a snowball effect. So it's like you do one project that leads to the next project, that leads it to the next project. So you might not have made money for the last 5, but a lot of times those people do bring you back. Like recently I did a documentary with a director. It was horrible. It was like 14 days straight traveling and shooting. But then she hired me for a commercial like 3 years later. I was like, I can't believe you remember my name. And she was like, no, I was so sorry about that documentary. But you were just so nice. And I felt like I never gave you the opportunity to really show your craft. So I thought it was like a really beautiful full circle moment. So just really pay attention with every project that you join.
Is it better when you're meeting with your collaborators to be realistic about, you know, maybe we can or can't do this thing, or we'll try and see?
How unrealistic. Because there's definitely a lot of times in meetings I'm like, we could definitely do that. Like, just because I'm excited about a project, and then like 5 seconds after the meeting, I call all my other DP friends. I'm like, I don't know how to do this. How do I do this? Because I just said yes to this job. But I feel like you have to say yes and learn on the fly. Because a lot of times your resume isn't maybe up to the tier that it needs to be to get that next level or like that next job. But you kind of have to just take a chance on yourself and ask the people around you for support. Because you're not going to get support unless you ask for help.
Yeah, Noelle, right? Yes.
I have a question.
So often an actor will have a great relationship with the director specifically, but maybe doesn't feel as comfortable with the crew. How does someone like Logan help create an environment where they feel like they can do their best work?
Yeah, so keeping the set as closed as possible for those intimate scenes is crucial. And I actually was on a set once where the actor came up to me and said that the AD actually made them feel really pressured and anxious because the AD was like, let's go, let's go, let's go. And the actor was trying to sink into this like really intimate sex scene. So that's where I had to be the bearer of bad news and have the AD offset for a closed set, which the AD made me feel anxious about that. They were like, we're never gonna get anything done. But you know, I have the ability to just be like, sorry, no. And I also think having that closed, intimate rehearsal before that intimate scene where it's just me, the actors, and the director, you choreograph everything, you get everything super in your body so that once you bring in the DP and like maybe like one lighting person, it feels more like a dance rather than something that you're like doing on the fly. You know where you're going to be touched, you know for how long, you know how you're going to kiss. So it feels more like you're just doing it over and over again. We get kind of like the intimate spooky stuff out in the rehearsal when it's really closed and safe. and then we keep it even, still closed, but a little bit bigger of a space. But I'm always like super locked in on the actor. So if I feel like they just like look at me with panicked eyes, then we can take a 2 and just decompress and just kind of keep it as close and safe as possible. Yeah.
Just to follow up on that, especially like as an actor, it's really welcoming when you introduce yourself to the AD and the DP and like all those department heads, because we're also here for you and to give you that kind of safe space. And it's like before you do all those intimate scenes, like if you know us, like there's just like another level of trust. Like I'm not gonna shoot you in a way that makes you feel invulnerable or anything. So I think it's a big part is when you get on set, really just start to know the department heads and kind of what they do.
Okay, we got time for one more. Okay, so for all of you, how do you navigate going back and forth between indie and maybe bigger budget spaces? What challenges do you face? And I would even say probably across genre or TV versus film.
You gotta learn, well, from a hairstylist point of view, and I'm sure costumes has to deal with that too, you have to learn how to work with what you have. Like I come from a world where I used to do hair shows and produce my own hair shows with a $300 budget. Like I had to figure it out and make it work. I treated everything like a competition per se. You know what I mean? Like a reality show competition where you're on a shoestring budget. And sometimes when you can take those lessons that you learn from those type of situations to cross over into bigger budgets, you know what I mean? But if you can make your work look amazing in a smaller budget, then obviously it'll be a phenomenal in a big budget. So I would say kind of just really roll with it because it kind of builds your knack. It builds how you work in under pressure, how you work under budget. Because a lot of times, just because they say it's $1 million show, don't mean that $1 million is going in your department. Let's be clear. You know what I mean? Because they'll say, well, we don't have the budget for that. Well, dang, but I feel like I'm working on an indie film because they didn't have the budget. It went all to another department, or you know what I mean? So I think that's how I would navigate it. But did that kind of answer a little? Okay.
Yeah, I'll piggyback off of that. Like with editorial, like so much of it with independent films is working with what you have. Because like the one thing with TV and features that are bigger, like not always, but sometimes they can reshoot scenes. Sometimes they can rewrite something and like fix something because they have the money to do it. And when you're working on independent features, that just doesn't exist. So whatever footage you get as an editor, you're really trying to make the story work in whatever way possible, coming with creative decisions of moving things around, like thinking of different ways that music can maybe help you like tell something. Like there's just so many ways in editorial that like when you're doing an independent feature, you're just so much more limited with the ability to go back and like fix certain things. So you have to kind of be creative yourself to find those solutions. But
I think what I love about independence and why I still do independence is it feels really personal because you really get to connect with these collaborators and they're in your house way too much. Like they live with you. Like one of my directors, we share the same phone bill. I think the difference is you just get to prep more. Like it's not a job for either of you, it's a passion. And I think that's where the heart of this really starts. So it's like, if you can keep that love for it, oh, it's magic.
Yeah, I was going to kind of piggyback off that. Like, I think working on bigger productions, you learn a lot and you see what works and what doesn't, and then you kind of take that onto a smaller project when you're the department head, or you have a little more say, or it's just you, or whatever, and you kind of take all of that information that you've learned and figure out how to make it work with what you have and what you're given, and kind of make magic out of that. And maybe you have to make some decisions that you wouldn't want to make, but you're still, it's kind of your time to be passionate about it and take kind of the creative lead on it. Whereas when you're working on a bigger project, you might be a smaller man on the team.
I lied to you all because someone right here has a burning question. This is the real last question. how do you advocate for yourself? What's your name? Bianca. Bianca is talking about her hair specifically, but like in any setting, how do you advocate for yourself without earning the title of being problematic, because you do want to make a good first impression and establish good relationships?
We deal with this all the time. Because when you see my name on the call sheet, it looks like Moira, but it's Moira. So naturally, people, when they know me, they see me, they don't think I'm black. So they be like, who is this girl? No shade to anybody, but I'm just saying what the real deal is, because a lot of times it has been a thing where people do not know how to take care of everybody's hair. So that's why for me, it's so important to have consultations. You, whatever race you are, I don't care what color you are, you need to learn how to take care of everybody's texture. I know some girls who ain't black that can do some black hair. Baby, they can slay. You know what I'm saying? But having that initial consultation so that you can be able, because I'm from the salon world, so I know how to talk to somebody and ask them, okay, what do you like? What do you don't like? This is what we're going for. How can we meet in the middle? And once they have that conversation with me, then that's when they feel relaxed, regardless of what color they are. It's not just a white, black thing or whatever the case. It's really a hair thing, because we as women, we take the most pride in our hair. And we don't want to go up to a set and be like, dang, I worked all day for these curls or all week for these curls, and they done blew dry and flat iron my hair and I ain't got a curl left. You know what I'm saying? So it's just more important to have that consultation, have communication, and really stand on what you want. But and it's not going to seem problematic to me, because you're the one that got to wear it. So I got to do my job to make sure that you're comfortable when you come in, because if I'm not strong at doing a blow dry, which I am, but still, if I'm not strong at doing a blow dry, baby, I'm going to put you on the next hairstylist that's bad enough to do a blow dry. And you're going to feel comfortable when you come into our trailer.
Yeah, and I think echoing what everyone has said today, there is a way to advocate for yourself and stay true to yourself and be kind. You're not going in there being like, I have to have this. You're saying, I really would love this because it's going to make me better at my job. So I think to talk to everyone is a daddy here in our community, so all the daddies in the room, it's go forth and be kind and communicate, and, you know, as you said, stay ready, you know. Can we get another round of applause for incredible panelists? Yeah. Yes.
Daddy Dailies is presented by Not Your Daddy's Films, a social impact organization dedicated to educating and empowering women and non-binary creatives in TV and film. If you like what you heard today, don't forget to subscribe and leave us a positive review. And if you want more Daddy episode insights and links to what we talked about, join us on Patreon/NYD Films. Daddy Dailies is produced in partnership with Robert Bailey and edited by Carly Tamarin, Vika Stubblebine, Claudia Restrepo, and Gracie Strauss. See you next time, Daddy.